The time is now 6:34 p.m., and I would like to call to order the regular City Council meeting. City Clerk Duarte, will you please take roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Frometa?
Present.
Councilmember LaPlante?
Present.
Councilmember Trujillo is excused. Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez is excused. Mayor Pacheco?
Present. I would now like to have Councilmember Frometa do the invocation for us.
It will be my honor, Madam. Thank you. If we can please stand. If we can please bow our heads and close our eyes. Thank you, Heavenly Father, this evening for bringing us together once more, and thank you for the opportunity to represent the residents of this fine city. We thank you for this time, and we want to lift up to you our fire department, our police department, and the staff that work so diligently to work on behalf of the residents. Thank you for my council colleagues and everyone joining us here tonight and via Zoom and YouTube. Father, we ask that you would bless this meeting and the votes and the discussions we will have. We pray that we will do our best to manage the affairs of this city on behalf of the residents the best we can. In your name we pray. Amen.
I would now like to invite up Jeannie Wood, who will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we move on, I would like to announce that item number 15 will not be considered this evening due to a lack of quorum for this item. The item will be brought back for council consideration at the October 11th, 2022 City Council meeting. Now I will go ahead and proceed with City Council member announcements, requests for future agenda items, and conference meeting reports. I will start off to my left with Councilmember Frometa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And my apologies, my voice is failing me a little bit today, but I just want to welcome you all to your City Council meeting. It is always a pleasure to come here to represent our residents of this fine city. Thank you for joining us tonight. I say engaged communities are strong communities, so thank you for joining us tonight. Just have a couple of items that I'd like to report on, and for our residents, or for those of you that are visiting us, we report on places that we've been. Every council meeting, it is important for you to know what we do when we are representing you in our official capacity as council members. I had the pleasure of attending, of being invited by the Rancho Los Amigos Foundation, which I am a board member of, this past week as they celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month. And I was the main speaker for their Hispanic Heritage series to speak about my life and what I do with my job here with the city. And I just want to say thank you to the Rancho Los Amigos Rehabilitation Center and the foundation for the work that they do to change and transform the lives that have been impacted by paralysis. And thank you to them. Also, we've had a busy time in our community with a lot of events. I know the library held an event, Day of the Book. Is that correct, Madam Mayor? And that was also a well-attended event in our community. We are looking forward to having Havana Nights coming up October 6th in downtown Downey. We invite, this is a family event, and we invite our community residents to come out and enjoy music, enjoy the community, and certainly the cultural activities that will be presented. Also, I do want to acknowledge the work that our Downey Police Department continues to do in terms of the speeding and the racing activities that we see around our city. And also, I know we've had over the last several weeks some complaints regarding a business that reopened in the northeast part of town, Tacos Don Goyo. And again, we appreciate our business community. However, we realize there's been some impact to the residents and the neighborhood regarding some traffic concerns. The city manager has been actively working on bringing about change in that particular area of Meldar and Manzanar by blocking the street, and that is underway. We are working diligently on that. And also, there's been a number of citations for illegal parking in that particular neighborhood. So we residents, we hear you, and we are working towards a resolution that meets your needs. I would like staff to once again continue, especially our Downey Police Department, to continue to look at speed in racing activities around our city. I know that continues to be such a major concern in the main thoroughfares. Certainly, we want to make sure our residents feel safe, and particularly around our schools. We know that the new school year is well underway, and I know that in many elementary schools, even middle schools, the traffic can be a little more than bearable on any given school day. But we need to remember to follow the appropriate parking protocols and speed guidance as well. Otherwise, there will be a great number of citations if folks do not follow and adhere to those speed controls. Madam Mayor, I could go on, but I will save the rest of my comments for the next council meeting, as my voice is a little off today. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councilmember LaPlante.
I participated in the dedication of Temple and Crawford Parks. The new playground area looks very nice. Thank you, Mr. Chacon, for the work that went in from your staff and also from Public Works. I appreciate that Parks and Rec is working on some little signage there that both parks that'll at least let the community know when they go to that park who it's really named after. Temple and Crawford are pretty generic, and I appreciate that the staff is getting some little plaques up that'll let the community know who they're named after. Welcome the students from Calvary Chapel and our one visitor from O Lutheran. Thank you for coming, and hope we don't bore you to death. I had the opportunity to chat with our state senator, Bob Archuleta, recently. I wasn't expecting him to meet him in line at the Costco food court, but yes, some days you just wind up meeting people at different places. On a Friday night, I was craving churros, and he was getting his dinner with his wife, so I guess that's the way. You may want to get used to that, ma'am. Late night dinners at Costco. You know, the most amazing thing about it was Costco was out of hot dogs. What's the world coming to when the Costco is out of hot dogs? Regarding speeding, I can guarantee you there were police officers on motorcycles on Stewart and Gray this morning enforcing the speed laws, because I can hear the sirens coming 3 or 4 times as they were pulling people over. So we know they were enforcing speed laws on Stewart and Gray this morning. And regarding, as Ms. Fermetta mentioned, the things at schools, we didn't used to have those problems when kids actually rode bicycles and walked to school, as opposed to everyone feeling they needed to drop off their student at the school within the 3 minutes before school starts, and then get them picked up within 3 minutes after the bell rings. No matter what we do as a city, as a school district, as in anything, when you're trying to cut it that close, as way too many people do, you're going to have a traffic nightmare. And there's no way that our police department, our public works people can solve a problem that is going to be universal, and if people try to do it all at the last minute. And I do want to compliment our city manager for the work he's been doing on the business up on Telegraph Road and trying to come up with creative solutions to the problem, and do what we can to make it all as best we can work for residents and a business owner. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I want to welcome everyone to our council meeting. I also want to say thank you to our city manager, who I know has been doing putting in a lot of work, especially with the Tacos Don Goyo. I know it's something that we are still continuing to deal with, but I know that our city is working hard for our Downey residents, especially in that area. I did want to thank some individuals who are in attendance. I see we have our Public Works Committee member, Alfred Tovar. Thank you for joining us. We also have Green Task Force Commissioner Wendy Mora, Parks and Rec Commissioner Jeannie Wood, and we also have Executive Director of Chamber of Commerce, Michael Calvert. And to our students from Calvary Chapel, please give them all a round of applause. So I've had a busy couple of weeks. I had the pleasure of welcoming the mayor of Guadalajara and the business community from Guadalajara here to our city. Guadalajara is one of our sister cities. It is our first sister city here in the city of Downey. I also had the pleasure of attending the opening of the Whole Child on Florence Avenue. And then I rushed over to celebrate Daryl Jackson's retirement celebration from the 1020 Club. He was instrumental in bringing the 1020 Club and opening it here in the city of Downey. And the September 17th event that Councilmember Fermetta mentioned was Beyond the Book. I had the pleasure of attending the event and welcoming everyone to this event. I also had the pleasure of introducing Melissa Villaseñor, who is a cast or was a cast member from Saturday Night Live, and she discussed a book that she will be releasing. And she did mention to us that she will be having a book signing that we will announce later on, but she'll be having that book signing at the Downey City Library. Also, I attended the ribbon cuttings over at Temple and Crawford Park, where Councilmember LaPlante also gave us some historical lessons. So if you want to hear historical lessons on the city of Downey, please attend our ribbon cuttings, especially our parks. He always has historical input. I also had the pleasure of attending the Columbia Memorial Space Center, where we had the privilege of partnering up with Disney Pixar, and we were able to show the new Lightyear movie. And I attended the Foot Locker and their celebration for Latin Heritage Month. And I also had the pleasure of being a special guest speaker at the Greater Downey Association of Realtors. And I was able to speak to the realtors and brokers within the city of Downey, and that's always a great pleasure for me. Upcoming events, we have Havana Nights. Havana Nights is back, so please join us. That is on October, do I have the date right? October 6th in the downtown Downey area, and starting at 6 p.m. So I hope you can all join us for that special event. And that will conclude my comments, short and sweet. But I will now proceed to hand it over to our interim city manager for any additional comments that you may have.
Thank you very much. I just have a few. I will introduce myself to those of you in the audience who don't know what a city manager is. I won't go through the whole civic lesson that I did last time we had students here. city manager is an appointed position. So the three council members who spoke, as you know, are elected. I'm appointed, as is the city attorney, by the city council to perform different functions. The city attorney provides legal advice, and my job is to supervise the day-to-day operations of the city. I'm an interim city manager, and that means that there's a vacancy right now for city manager. And during the period of time when the city will be going through a recruitment process to pick a new city manager, I get the opportunity to fill in that role. I'm delighted to have a chance to be in this city. It's a wonderful city full of wonderful people that are worthy of serving, and so I'm happy to be here. I'll start off on just a very few updates here with the update on the city manager recruitment. The city did hire a consulting firm, an executive search firm that is responsible for going out and publicizing the opening and receiving applications, which will then be shared with the city council. And the city council will then decide ultimately who it is that they want to choose to fill this position. That position is moving forward. The advertisements for the position will be posted in public in the next week or so. I think somewhere between September 30th and October 3rd, the position will be publicly opened, and people will be able to then provide their resumes. The search is done on a confidential basis. If you didn't do these things on a confidential basis, a lot of people wouldn't apply for fear that they'd get in trouble where they may be working today. So it's something that's done on a confidential basis. At the end, the appointment is done by the city council and announced publicly, and it's hard to say when that'll happen. It could happen quickly, and it may take some time yet before that gets done. I will mention, because the question keeps coming up, we also right now have an acting assistant city manager, and we've been asked a few times what happened with the previous assistant city manager. Mr. Oskui has retired. He's gone. He's not working with the city anymore. So those people who've asked that question, that position is vacant. We will wait for the new city manager to make the appointment for assistant city manager, but in the meantime, I will tell you that Vanya de Rojas, who has been filling that position, is tremendously competent and capable, and it's been such a pleasure for me to get a chance to work with her doing this job. Again, and thank you to the council for acknowledging the work that we're doing on the neighborhood that houses a lot of very good residents and several businesses that are very successful. The Tacos Don Goyo business has obviously got good food, and it's doing well, and it's attracting lots of people. And that's attracting people to a Downey business is a good thing. That's something that we like to do. The challenge there is that the business is located right on the steps of a very good residential neighborhood that deserves to be protected. So the city is working hard to try to find a way to accommodate that. I was invited to the Chamber of Commerce this last week for a lunch speaking opportunity, and we talked quite a bit about what can we do to help the business be successful and also to protect the neighborhood. We're working on a plan to test, and I say test because we don't know how it'll work out, a barricade that would separate the neighborhood from the commercial area. We hope that will have good results, and we'll be moving in a good direction on that. We're also doing some things to post the streets so that heavy trucks are not invited into the residential area. That's a very common city regulation that we can impose in that neighborhood. So for those neighbors in that area who are wondering what we're doing, we're working, and we're trying to get there. And you heard the city council's comments earlier. Everyone here is working. The police and the public works departments, the fire department. We're all working on trying to find the resolution there. The last thing I'm going to mention to the city council is that we have a busy month coming up. On October 11th, right now, we will have a carryover item from tonight's agenda. Item, what was it, 15? Will be carried over. And then in addition to that, we have on that date adoption of building and fire codes that have to be adopted every 3 years. That's a substantial requirement and an important thing to do. I don't know how much time that takes at a meeting, but it's a big item that will be on the agenda. And we also have the adoption of a revised housing element that will be going to the Planning Commission next week, and then we'll come to the City Council on the 11th. And then on the 25th, the long-promised Historic Preservation Ordinance, which has been passed by the Planning Commission, will be coming forward for the City Council. So we will have a lot of work to do in the month of October while there's a lot of other things going on. But Madam Mayor, that's my update.
Thank you. I will now proceed with a presentation. So I have a special presentation. It is for the Mayor's Impact Award. And I have the pleasure of presenting this award to Tim Hutcherson. So can I please have you come up? So let me tell you a little bit about Tim. Tim owns Downey Nissan here in the city of Downey. And as you can tell, he has a passion for cars. And he has had a passion for cars since when he was in high school in Michigan. And it continued when he moved here to California. And in the last 45 years, he has held almost every position working at car dealerships to now being the owner, again, of Downey Nissan, which is the #1 Nissan dealership in the Western United States. That is a huge accomplishment. But that is not why he is receiving the Mayor's Impact Award. In 2008, Tim has had the opportunity to open his own dealership in Downey, but soon after opening his doors, the Great Recession hit. But with hard work and dedication, the dealership was not only able to stay in business, but it thrived. And Tim, he's known for his friendly, gregarious personality. Ever since I first met him in 2016, he has had a genuine heart. Every time I see him, he's always happy, he's always smiling. And I see that with his staff. I see him as a type of person that greets everyone with a smile. And that's what I've been told, and I've seen that personally myself. But Tim has also been involved with various community organizations. He has participated in the Downey Chamber of Commerce Street Fair, the Downey YMCA Board, the Rancho Los Amigos National Rehabilitation Center, and the city's Dia de los Muertos event, along with the Downey Christmas Parade. Right, Michael? Perhaps the most significant impact Tim has made is with offering scholarships to our students. Through Downey Nissan, he has provided multiple scholarships for the Downey Unified District Auto Technician programs. With his generosity, he has contributed to our community's youth by providing a program that serves as a cornerstone for our students to gain skills so that they will also have a future career in the automotive industry. And because of his impact, because of all he has done in the city of Downey, That is the reason why he is receiving the Mayor's Impact Award. So let's give him a round of applause.
My daughter did a good job.
She did. I
I'm impressed.
I added a couple stuff.
Oh, I like that.
Would you like to say a few words? You don't have to.
Oh, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. City Council, thank you. All of our officials. It's just been an honor being in Downey. I mean, I've loved it from day one, and I'm a big believer in, you get out what you put in, and how do you not put into this community? It's been great for me. We took an empty piece of property and built a store, and did everything we could do in the community to try to be proud of what I do. I'm very proud, and we support a lot of students in different ways, and everything that my daughter wrote. So I won't go through it all again, but this is an honor. Thank you very much. I'm really, thank you.
And we have
Thank
your
you very
son.
much. My son Connor is here. My good friend Jim McKinga, also my pastor. So my wife couldn't be here. She's in Florida, and my daughter's homesick with the baby. So
Thank you.
yes, I'm very happy they're here supporting me.
And I have your coin.
Oh, very
And
nice.
I have the Mayor's Impact, the special one.
A new lapel.
And then I have a special
Oh.
Mayor's Impact Award.
Look at that.
Let's take a picture. Would you like maybe your son? Maybe you
Sure. Come on. Thank you. My son now works with me at the store. He was a chemistry major in college, and he's taken a different direction.
Sell some cannabis.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right. I will now take public comment on agenda, non-agenda, and consent calendar items next. Before we begin the public comment period, I would like to remind members of the public that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Copies of the meeting rules are located in the back of the chambers. The City Council acknowledges the right of the public to address issues that are within the city's jurisdiction and invites the public to do so during the City Council meeting. However, this right must be balanced with the need of the City Council to conduct the business in a fair and efficient manner, free from disruption or disturbance. Members of the audience who wish to address the City Council during public comment are reminded that the city's meeting rules prohibit yelling, whistling, booing, screaming, and any other outburst that disrupts or disturbs the meeting. Any conduct that interferes with or disrupts persons who are addressing the City Council. Any conduct that interferes with or disrupts council members while they are speaking, and any other conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Members of the audience violating the city's meeting rules after fair warning shall be removed from the council chambers. I remind the audience that pursuant to Penal Code Section 403, it is a misdemeanor for any person to willfully disturb or break up a public meeting. Those violating Penal Code Section 403 may be cited accordingly. Unless modified by the mayor, each speaker shall have 4 minutes to address the council meeting regarding agenda, non-agenda, and consent calendar items. Pursuant to Downey Municipal Code, the public comment period is limited to 30 minutes. I remind speakers that your comments are addressed to me and not to any other council or staff member. City Clerk Duarte, have you received any written public comment to be incorporated into the record?
We have not, Mayor.
Members of the public wishing to address the city council may now come forward and form a line. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the city council. You may proceed.
Acts and Facts is a free publication. For subscription information, call 800-337-0375. I'm reading from page 4 of the current issue, Natural Selection's Death-Driven Worldview. Millions of Christians are rejoicing over the United States Supreme Court's decision to overturn the 1973 Roe v. Wade ruling that legalized abortion. Countless Christians have prayerfully labored for decades to protect preborn children. With the answer to these prayers in the recent Dobbs decision, more children may now continue life, and the shameful blight on our nation has been diminished. Why are so many Christians strongly pro-life? The Bible teaches that in the original creation, God bestowed something only on humans, his image. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Genesis 1:27. Unlike animals, humans can know and understand their Creator. And specifically because humans bear God's image, they're not to be murdered, abused, misused, or even cursed. It's been both troubling and revealing to witness the response of many who detest the Dobbs decision. Numerous people now vocalize even less regard for the lives of preborn children than before. It's palpably obvious that the same spirit that animated Pharaoh and King Herod to have no regard for the lives of children has continued unabated. Many of those who touted the term pro-choice and hailed Roe as a landmark of liberation have now been shown to actually be pro-abortion. Abortion isn't the only expression of the current disregard for human life. Other plagues of society include infanticide, mass shootings, euthanasia, and a resurgence of eugenics. Their growing frequency reveals the population's increasing desensitization to death and the woeful ease with which perpetrators kill. How did whole sections of Western civilization that were once constrained by Christian teachings dignifying human life ever get to this point? I used to put the whole blame on a worldview called...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandenburg versus Ohio, 395-444-1969. Now, whether or not you like or dislike my First Amendment, the following words are not to discourage you, but to encourage you that this is what First Amendment's all about. And definitely, I'm not a dirty nigger. But I do plan to send the Jews back to Israel. Let's give them back to the dark garden to save America. And why do I say save America? Because if you're not familiar with the housing crisis, if you're not happy hearing about your friends, neighbors being placed out on the street with the rest of the goddamn homeless people, and especially veterans who continue to live on the street, read my shirt. Because there's going to be a tsunami, a tidal wave, and a crisis and a pandemic of people crying why their mommy and daddy have to work 3 jobs and they have to sleep in a car or a van, or better, like the lady that's been sleeping in front of the library for the last 3 years, and not one goddamn motherfucker helps the poor woman out in that Ford. Mommy for assembly? Really? You should really consider what your intent is on that matter to save America. But let's go back to the constitutional betterment. Bury the niggers, wait to do our part, give us our state rights, freedom for the whites, because I'm white, Donald LaPlante. I'm definitely white, a white motherfucker with a bad attitude. NWA, straight out of Boyle Heights. And for the 4 years I lived here in Downey, I built streets, I built sidewalks, I made this city spend $22 million for a better cause, because you discriminate against the elderly, you abuse the disabled, and you mislead the public. Just like we're building a goddamn Honda Center by the 5 freeway off of Imperial when we need housing. So who's getting the better of the best in this situation? Matter of fact, let's talk about Nissan. Did they pay us our $1 million back for opening up that business? Why didn't we give Honda $1 million to finish their business off of Imperial? Well, the reason is, again, freedom for whites. Nigger will have to fight for every inch he gets from now on. And that's the reason why the future of the young Americans is to suffer while Mommy Frometta celebrates her 15th quinceañera and doesn't have the breath to talk about anything else.
Thank you, Mr. Herman.
Thank you for the record.
Item number 13.
Wasn't that interesting, kids?
Approval, the donation of 1 golf for some at Rio Hondo Golf Course for the gangs out of Downey. Now, realistically, what are you really doing about gangs in general that come through or are in Downey? You have a fundraiser that is set up for the 17th of October, which is a crock of baloney. You know why? Because it's just going to waste taxpayers' money, which is still baloney, which is whatever you guys are doing here, which is baloney. And another thing I want to say is, see justice for Los Angeles. What you folks need to see is that
Sir, please turn around.
The city needs to help the city within the city, which would be mental health crisis. Is this considered still LA County? I would assume so. So mental health crisis, maybe you might need to help people that come inside your city, come through or live in the city that might have a mental problem. Maybe they're homeless. Maybe they're just individuals that need some help or assistance. Rather than spend tons of money on a golf tournament, which I know you guys would like to join. However, realistically, taxpayers' money is more than a golf tournament or the safety of people that need help, maybe mentally, physically, need a place to stay, or just rather homeless. However, justice for Los Angeles and justice for all.
Sir, that's your second warning, please.
Metallica.
Metallica?
Orion.
Lee Squire, Vietnam veteran, Cold War veteran, retired Bray employee, financial services manager, accounting and auditing, auditor and fraud examiner. To the students at Calvary Chapel, I don't like foul language, but foul language is protected speech, and my family shed their blood for his right to say it. I don't have to like it, but by God Almighty, we did. Appointed board member, I want to, Assistant City Manager John Askewy, appointed board member representing cities of Central Basin, about 24 of them. Annual audits were concealed from the cities for the audits for fiscal years 2017 to 2019. Askewy asked finance staff, did he ever ask the finance staff to review the audit, communications letter, or the report on internal controls for these annual Central Basin audits when he could have consulted with our finance department? Askewy did he ever provide the city clerk to these audits of 2017 to 2019 so our city council can place on the agenda to demonstrate their accountability of holding Central Basin accountable. I have Central Basin Audit and Communications letter and their internal control report, which I'm going to present to the city clerk. States the general manager represents payroll, and the internal control has the fraudster Askewy playing general manager and finance officer. He presents the payroll register and the disbursements, and that know-nothing Chacon and his other little cronies just go right along with it, and the only two people who oppose it are two female elected representatives, Martha Camacho Rodriguez and Leticia Vasquez Wilson. I just want also you to know in 2020, when Rojas came on board, they eliminated the finance staff, and John Askewy knew that and said nothing. To give Rojas, that fraudster, access to the trustee cash and investments is unbelievable. John Askewy concealed this from we the people of the city of Downey and an obligation to provide those audits to all of the 24 cities. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Victoria Smith. I'm a resident of Downey.
Can you speak into the microphone? I can't hear you.
Yeah. My name is Victoria Smith, and I'm a longtime resident of Downey. And I'd like to thank those of you that helped us with the recall venture that we have just completed. I'm here to speak about the recall. For anyone that has been following the recall effort, they would know that from the beginning, the focus has been on the lack of qualification for office of Council Member Catherine Alvarez. The City of Downey cannot continue to function successfully with corrupt leadership. Catherine Alvarez has failed to disclose her extensive criminal record while running for office. Her 2 evictions for failure to pay rent shows she cannot manage her own personal budget, let alone be able to successfully manage Downey's $240 million budget. She has failed to become engaged with her own District 3 residents by her lack of attendance at District 3 events, most of them. Her thuggish and threatening behavior towards her opposition and fellow Downey residents, even in their own homes, shows a lack of respect for the rule of law in general. How can she become responsible for making and approving our city laws and ordinances when she herself has publicly thwarted the law? Clearly, Catherine Alvarez is not qualified to hold public office and lead our wonderful city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Okay, did I get that right from a couple speakers previous? Is that the audits from Central Basin Water District should have been presented publicly to us here? Why weren't they? We need to know that. We are the ratepayers. We are their customer. And where is John Askewy? Where has he been? If he was hiding that information, he used to be sitting right over here, but he's not here now. But the interim city manager says he retired. What is the official date of his retirement? We would like to know. And I'll maybe give you 5 seconds of my time and you can give us the date exactly when he retired. I want to draw a comparison between our mayor, Blanca Pacheco, and her opponent in the assembly race and what her record has been here in Downey. His name is Raul Ortiz. He's jokingly the redheaded Mexican guy from La Mirada. I think you call him Zanahoria. Is that the right term? Okay. Just want to make sure I got it right there. My Spanish ain't bad. When we look at Blanca Pacheco's record, we have nothing but fee hikes, taxes, support of taxes. She couldn't push that yes button on those taxes fast enough. She just couldn't push it fast enough. She's done nothing about tacos Don Goyos, in spite of what she said up here. Nothing. She supports Joe Biden's open border. In her website, she says that those people that are living here illegally are just as much American as the rest of us by any measure. Nothing could be further from the truth. She supported all the lockdowns, and now she's going to support green hydrogen in our, as she puts it, our fight for climate change. It's just another environmental fad that the Democrat Party is trying to foist upon us. I would like to say that Raul Ortiz is definitely 180 degrees diametrically opposed to her policies. He is for the gas tax, which I misspoke last week. I said car tax. He has opposed the gas tax, and he has supported repealing it. Blanca Pacheco is totally in favor of it. He opposes Proposition 47, which was written by Gavin Newsom and lets criminals out on the streets. And he's for rolling back business regulations for all businesses in California.
Thank you, sir.
Let's make California golden again.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Scott and staff, good evening. Comment about climate change. The gentleman before me mentioned that. There's been an issue stressed lately about EVs, electric vehicles, or as it's called by some, battery on wheels. Basically, some people think that the use of EVs, electric vehicles, are a panacea for climate change. That's nonsense. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's part of the solution to climate change. There are other issues with electric vehicles. Number one, the batteries. The batteries, the main components of batteries are lithium and cobalt. And guess where they are found mainly? From our friend in China. So if China wants to do us bad news with the US, all they can do is limit their supply. Another issue with electric vehicles is the charging stations. Most of us can use our home to charge, but if you're out on the road, there's been a report that over 30% of the charging stations are non-functional out there. So if you're going out on a big trip, more than maybe several hundred miles, be prepared for some surprises along the way. So in terms, the other thing is substations for the transmission of electricity. According to a report on 60 Minutes recently, there are over 55,000 substations throughout the country. They're all interconnected, and they all hopefully provide electricity to all of us in the nation. The report on that station indicated that the government stated there are location of 9 substations throughout the U.S., that if someone wanted to do the country harm, all they would do is put those 9 substations and not work anymore. And apparently we all, including the country, would have a big problem with electricity of all. So just keep in mind, it's great to have EVs. They're wonderful, but don't be surprised, or be surprised if there are some issues further on down the line. Madam Mayor, this ends my comments. I yield my remaining time back to you.
Thank you.
David Hovick, 7609 Fontana Street. I'm here to talk about Downey's drone ordinance. In legal terms, Downey has no legal standing, which means if anyone receives a citation for violating the drone ordinance, it will always be dismissed in court. And I'll explain why, but first, the error as to how Downey thought it had the authority to regulate drones. According to Downey 4999, one aspect of its purpose and intent is pursuant to the city's police powers and its authority to issue regulations related to zoning and land use. That is correct, but the next part is where Downey misunderstood the FAA's intent. Downey's version, whereas the FAA recognizes that state and local governments may regulate the takeoff and landings of aircraft within their boundaries, end quote. The statement is correct, but Downey thought that the use of the word regulate included the drones in airspace. Here is the FAA's intent. Cities may, quote, generally determine the location of aircraft landing sites through their land use powers, end quote. Since the FAA doesn't regulate a city's land use, cities need to do it. However, the FAA does not permit cities to regulate any type of aircraft. And the correct intended meaning is, just like any city can designate a skateboard park location, a city can also designate drone takeoff and landing sites within their city, meaning to regulate your city land use, period. But the bigger problem is with Downey's drone ordinance itself. I'll read the FAA press release stated July 20th, 2018, quote, Congress has provided the FAA with exclusive authority to regulate aviation safety. State and local governments are not permitted to regulate any type of aircraft operations. Cities are not permitted to have their own rules or regulations governing the operation of aircraft, end quote. There is absolutely nothing ambiguous about what it means. Downey is not permitted to have their own rules or regulations governing drones. Therefore, per federal regulation 49 United States Congress section 40103, Downey must remove the drone ordinance to be in compliance with this federal regulation, period. I have copies for you with more than what I said here with the federal regulations and a contact number to the FAA for you to verify for yourself everything I just said. I'm also recording this at home so that if needed, I could prove to the FAA that as of today, Downey is aware that they are in violation of the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's very unfortunate to hear that yet again the city is in violation of the law. How surprising. I'd like to address some of the comments by Councilmember Frometa on social media. She is spreading misinformation, disinformation. She's saying that rent control is, we already have it here in the city of Downey. That's false. What we have throughout California is a limit on extreme rent increases, known as a rent cap. We want a local rent control law like the one that Bell Gardens recently established and so many other cities in LA County are establishing. Why is it that families in Downey have to suffer with 5, 6, 7, up to 8% when Santa Monica has 1.4? That would lead to a livable, manageable lifestyle for all of the families here. Okay, but of course you people don't get it, especially the mayor who has come out explicitly against rent control, Blanca Pacheco, on the Downey Tenants Union Instagram. She has come out strongly against rent control. That's because she's more concerned with the landlords than she is with the tenants, with young people, the vast majority of people who are renters. Because, you know, she doesn't understand because, you know, she's just having parties over there at Mr. Trujillo's restaurant. And, you know, she's in there with the most corrupt people in California, like the Speaker of the California State Assembly, Mr. Rendon. Mr. Rendon has harmed the community of California for a decade now. He denied us health care. He's in charge of, you know, he was the one who spearheaded the opposition to helping people with the gas prices. And there's the mayor, our future assemblywoman, with Rendon, because obviously, you know, he's terming out and he's passing on the baton. He's saying, oh, I want her to be the one to oppress the people. That's what she's gonna do. Just because she's the mayor doesn't mean that she's good for the people. She's for taxes. She's against true affordable health care. She's against rent control. She's just the worst, because the only thing she wants to do is be having these fancy fundraisers Right there's Mr. Trujillo, who's missing. Apparently he's going to Europe. How fun. Yeah, because when you're rich, you got all this money to travel and do all the other stuff. Well, you oppress the other people, right? Like Miss Pacheco loves to do. She was an evictions attorney. Then she's getting money from the Bell Gardens attorney. It's all stealing from the community. She's the absolute worst. But I'm very happy to see that young people decided to protest her. One of a candidate who's running to represent part of the district that she's going to be representing, Mr. Aaron Reveles. He organized this protest, and he's saying, vote peace and freedom, vote any kind of third party, not the fucking Democrats. The Democrats are the absolute worst. Don't believe the Democrats. If it comes down to it, if you have to choose between a Democrat or a Republican, don't vote Democrat. Fuera Pacheco.
Thank you. Mr. Juan Martinez.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Juan Martinez. I am running for the 4th District for City Council. I am also one of your appointed delegates here in the 64th District. I want to start off with a question to the public. For everyone that's here for Catherine Alvarez calling her a thug, just know that I don't support Catherine Alvarez. I don't condone many of her behaviors. But where were you guys when Mr. Trujillo was trying to challenge a constituent to a fight? Where were you guys when the mayor was supporting water privatization, which would end your voting rights and your representation? Where were you guys when Claudia Frumeta was saying bigotry right on that podium, saying that she wasn't going to support groups because she didn't want to give them money or give them a place here in our city? And that's in regards to the flag and the picnic, because you look confused. Don't be. Where were you guys when our current assistant city attorney is sitting up there from Best Krieger, which is the law firm that was implicated with a fraud scandal in the city of Bell? It seems like you guys like to talk about crimes that took place a few years ago, but you're not willing to talk about the crimes in front of you today. You're not willing to talk about the crooks that are sitting up there tonight, who are still sitting, occupying those seats, stealing from the public, pillaging and privatizing our resources. So I just hope that just how you feel as strongly about Catherine Alvarez, which I agree she should be recalled, I hope that you have the decency and courage to recall the other criminals who are sitting up there. Where is John Askewy? Is he still getting a stipend from the city? Is he still taking pay? This man has not been to work in months. We deserve to know if this man is still taking our taxpayer money, and you are not telling us if he is or if he isn't. Why is Downey not speaking up against the general manager at Central Basin, Alex Rojas, who was indicted on 18 accounts of fraud, 3 on perjury, and 1 on conflict of interest? You are part of that system of the Central Basin. Why are you not doing anything about that, Blanca Pacheco? You should send a letter immediately to the Central Basin asking the board to put them on paid leave or to suspend them. But you're not doing that. You're never doing your job. Last but not least, one of the gentlemen who just alerted you that you're in violation of the drone compliance, we can't allow only corporations to be able to do as they please.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Oh, yes.
Back again to talk about tacos de Goyo. I know it's been a while, and I know I keep hearing that we're trying, but I've seen no proof. Nothing. No draw-ups, nothing. Kids can't go out and play in the streets. They can't ride their bikes because we have constant cars driving down that street 50, 60, 70 miles an hour every single day. taco shop owner said he was going to go out and he was going to direct traffic and he was going to help with the parking and he was going to do the trash and he was going to do this. Haven't seen him. Where is he? But that's what he promised you guys. Hold up your bag. Yeah, he's helping. He's done nothing. Police, parking patrol, ain't seen them. Where are they at? People still parking in the alley when there's no parking signs all over it. Still parking in the alley. Still parking in front of our driveways. Still have people walking by our houses that we don't even know. I can't even let my dogs in the front yard because all they want to do is bark because people are constantly walking by my house. Do I want my dog to jump out and bite somebody? No, because then I'm going to get sued. I have a beware of dog sign, but what is that going to do when there's 50, 60 people walking by my house all day long? They don't care. But he was going to help. He even put a sign out, respect our neighbors. He's not my fucking neighbor. Fuck him. And fuck his wife and his business. He can go to hell because I'm tired of it. 5 years I've been trying to get this guy gone. 5 years. And I've seen a speaker on his business taken off.
Mr. Herman, please put that sign down. That's your first warning. You continue to put signs up like that, you know better.
But this is freedom of speech and expression.
Ma'am,
Yes,
first
ma'am,
warning.
This is freedom of speech and expression. Ma'am.
First warning. I will proceed.
I know your warning.
They're protected by the First Amendment, City Attorney.
If you don't know.
Second warning. We can't continue the council meeting until everyone conducts themselves.
Yeah, you interrupted me.
Well, they're doing it. They're contesting.
I apologize for using that language in front of my son, but I'm tired of this.
Okay.
5 years.
You may proceed.
5 years. He can't go outside and do anything because of cars. No police on Friday nights, no police parking patrol on Saturdays, all day and all night, and nobody there Sundays either. 2 semis parked on the street the other day. We sent pictures. Still nothing. I just want to see proof that somebody's doing something. 5 years, and we have nothing besides no parking signs. That's it. Show me something. As I said before, show me the money.
I've been threatened 2 times by people who were going to Tacos Langoyo because I was riding my scooter. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Let everybody speak.
good evening.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Good evening, Mayor, Madam Mayor, and board members. My name is Faith Rodriguez, and I would like to bring up the issue of the location of the FDA Women's Health Center. As you know, just down the street is Downey High School. Not even 500 feet next to it is the FDA Women's Health Center. The FDA Center offers surgical abortions on Fridays and the abortion pill readily during the week. Why is this abortion facility so close to the high school? We should be protecting our youth from the billion-dollar business of abortion, and we need to protect life and protect our youth and promote things such as federally qualified health centers, which provide the same things as these women health centers minus abortion. Having an abortion center so readily available to younger women can encourage unprotected sex. It's really awful how we have it so close to the high school for them to make these life-altering decisions that cannot be undone. The decision to kill your baby should not be so readily available to people of such a young age. This is a great city, and I was very impressed by the way you prayed at the beginning of this meeting, but I really believe that you guys should reconsider moving the building out of the city or at least away from the high school because where children can access it without parent consent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joaquin Beltran. I'm running for City Council. Mi nombre es Joaquín Beltrán. Estoy corriendo para el Consejo de la Ciudad de Downey. I want to share my story with everyone here, the community members, everyone watching at home as well. My story is one of the American dream. It's one of the Downey dream. My parents, immigrants from Mexico, came here, met here, and had dreams of having a better life for themselves, for their children. I grew up in a small home with aunts and uncles, and my mom worked as a seamstress, my dad as a machine operator, and my mom would go to downtown, buy clothes, so we could go after school on the weekends, door to door, to achieve that American dream. I remember one time we were driving down Downey Avenue. I was probably 9 years old at the time. And my mom tells me, you know, my dream is to have a home here, to live here. And within the year, we were living in Downey. But along the way, we faced challenges. We had a business that got uprooted through eminent domain. And so we found a potential spot here in Downey. As an 18-year-old, I came to the council asking the council to approve the business. And we kept working on our American dream, our Downey dream. In the process, my mom got sick. And so I started from scratch in that business, helping to bring it up. I got involved in the community during the process with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Christmas parade, loaning cars so that we can make it successful. And so in that whole process, I saw how the health, family, community, economy, it's all connected. So I went back to school. I became student body president, Cal State LA, helped advocate for more funding for the CSU system. After that, I worked for the SBA's Small Business Development Centers to bring funding for small businesses, to help grow small businesses, create jobs. I also created Speak Up America to help people's voices be heard. During the pandemic, we couldn't wait for government to take action. We had to take action ourselves. I raised money to bring masks to local hospitals. I created the only pandemic plan by anybody in 2020 to help end the pandemic. And right now, small businesses are hurting. People are hurting with the cost of living, of affordable homes, food, gas. Emergency rooms are backed up. We need to get back to the Downey dream, the American dream. And that's what I'm running for. Please join me at JoaquinBeltran4Downey.com. I hope to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Gary Kisayan. I got the question, if we wonder to see somebody helping us with the housing community, who we should see? Somebody in City Hall named Marlon Ramirez or Stephen Fowler? Is the Monday is working day for these two people? At 11 o'clock when I attempt to this building to see them and ask them a couple of advice, nobody's here. Are they getting paid? I'm wondering, is this respect the people of the Downey to not receiving any answer when I'm leaving a message for them on their phone? To call me back? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, sorry.
I think I'm gonna need a translator, or I'm gonna try to do my best. I don't bring you pictures today, but I bring you that because maybe you guys put my picture in the trash, so might as well. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about me. My name is Jose Luis Gomez, and what is bringing me to the United States around 30 years ago, after I asked for my license because I was in the Mexican Army. The one I have the honor to serve for 9 years, 14 months before I get my license, we fighting with the cartels in Badiraguato and La Noria, Sinaloa. And I was thinking about to get a better life, so I pursued my American dream. And I came to this country. I work every single day. I don't have vacation for about 10 years. I own 2 businesses in Plaza Mexico, and I own my house in Downey, what I think is a beautiful city. But right now, I don't have peace in my own home because taco stand. And it is very ironic. I don't know if I said the word right. After I fight the the cartels and narco-traffic in Mexico, Sinaloa, a taquero make my life miserable. We are good people. We need your help. We don't need empty promises. You know, I see the last meeting, and you guys talk about our problem as a small issue. It's not a small issue. If I go to your house and put trash like that, you ain't gonna like it. You're gonna be upset. Maybe you're fired. And that's what we try to do in Mother Avenue. We tired. They respect my neighbor. They call him racist. He's not racist. In the pandemic, when I lost my job, he offered me not just food, money. Him, the one you got, they call racist, and Ruben. They're good people. Why you guys don't help us? We need your help. We don't need empty promises. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sir, please sit down.
Madam Mayor, City Council, my name is Alfred Tovar, right? Aside from being Public Works Committee member, I'm also the president of one of the chapters for NAREP, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. And I'm here to talk about the housing crisis. We absolutely cannot neglect the building of more entry-level housing for homeownership. There's no greater obstacle to Latino homeownership today than the low supply of housing. One of the most frustrating elements of advocating for housing supply is that we're constantly told that it's someone else's fault. Our federal and state legislators have said that we have to talk to our local elected officials, and many cities are pointing the finger at their neighboring cities down the road. So here we are. Over the last 20 years, the annual pace of construction has slowed compared to the 3 decades before it, resulting in at least 5.5 million fewer units being built nationally. The housing shortage is only getting worse every single day. So here are some strategies that we are suggesting Downey to consider. Implementing a new zoning reform to allow for more density, including the building of condos and townhomes. We can rezone commercial properties or repurpose unused buildings for housing, including mixed-use developments. We can end apartment condo bans within 1/4 mile of job centers and existing transit stops. We can streamline and lower barriers to housing developments and permit approvals. We can create a funding mechanism or grant for small developers to build homes. And finally, we can ensure that existing development plans include owner-occupied housing. Okay, I hope that those are some things that the council can consider. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. I understand that everyone is getting very comfortable with us coming here each time. We are not planning to do it until we retired. As you can see, we started our first and second meeting very nicely. We were explaining you the situation, bringing you many evidence, pictures, and really ask you nicely to deal with our issue. As we progress on coming here, we bring our kids, they sharing their stories. My neighbors, absolutely nice people, have to share with you their life stories, which is absolutely ridiculous, because the question is, who are you for us to tell you what our stories are? Because each of my neighbor is more decent person than all of you. Mr. Scott, why are you so happy? You're here for your paycheck, and there is no other reason for you to be here. You don't care about the city of Downey. You're giving us empty promises, and then just counting days when you leave, and another permanent city manager can come and replace you. Ms. Frometa, months ago, I asked you, please get involved in our issue. Why you didn't reach a single person? Why you didn't tell us how our issue is going on? Why I receive messages on my phone to vote for you in your election if I don't think you should be here? You exhausted. You know why? Because you're tired with people's issues. You don't want to do anything. You're tired. Step back. This is not a volunteering job. Here you helping people. You have to help us. We come in here. We're
Ma'am,
not
please
getting
direct
paid.
your comments to me.
Huh?
Please direct them to me.
Can I look where I want, please? Or look,
You can.
you will make a career in prison when you tell people what to do. As a mayor, can you do something like a mayor? Can you address people with respect and dignity? You interrupted me right now. Violation of First Amendment. So you guys making us to come to the point where we come here instead of talking constructive, expressing our issue, to just come here and express our anger at you. I'm asking you, how long we have to come here? We came here many times with evidence, and this is gift for you. I will leave it for you so you can enjoy. Because after you call our issue small issue, I understood very seriously how you see all of us. Like crazy people have nothing to do on every second Thursday and Tuesday coming here. You are wrong. And I don't want to come here anymore and yell at you. You're absolutely miserable people for me. I have other things to do. I'm a graduate of University of Southern California. I have a big future ahead of me. Instead, I need to be here with you. Please solve our issue. It's a serious issue. Follow law, do procedure. Taco Dango is a public nuisance. Just follow law and do it. Miss Frometa, you're exhausted to do this job. Don't run.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. No. We're gonna go ahead and take a recess. We're gonna take a 2-minute recess. We're gonna take a 2-minute recess. We will now reconvene our council meetings. Are there any further speakers? Seeing none, is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved,
Is there a
Mayor.
second?
I think me.
So ordered by the mayor. Now is the time for consent calendar. Oh, wait. Sorry.
We already closed public comment?
Months ago.
The mic is. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Hold on.
Okay, so
Okay.
my name's Eileen Cardona, and I want to talk about a situation that happened a couple months ago. I was going to the Downey Promenade with my friend, and someone was stealing the store, and there was security there and police there, and they didn't do anything, and the man went out running. And I was wondering if we could fix that situation, because it's been occurring a lot in many different stores around Downey, and I just wanted there to be safety for the youth, because we are the next future generations to come. So I just want to fix that situation right here and now. I don't know. So yeah, sorry.
Thank you. And our police chief is here. In case there's an incident that you do want to report, you can go up to her right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. And public comment period is now closed. Mr. Herman.
Sorry.
That's your second warning. Now is the time for consent calendar items. Are there any council members that would like to remove or abstain from an item? Seeing none, is there a motion and
Move to approve.
Second to approve? Is there a second? Please vote.
The consent calendar is approved with Councilmember Trujillo and Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez excused.
Next item is one administrative report. And that's to receive and file a report and provide direction to staff for options for regulating the parking, stopping, and standing of oversized vehicles, including recreational vehicles on public streets and highways. Interim City Manager Scott, is there a staff report?
I believe Mr. Eckert, our city prosecutor, will make the report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. So I was requested to come and provide a report for you on how the city can actually address issues that are related to the parking of oversized vehicles and recreational vehicles. And so first off, just to kind of give you a brief indication as to what types of vehicles we're talking about. Oversized vehicles are typically something that is regulated or defined, categorized by their weight, height, and length. The typical sort of standards that we look at is length exceeding 22 feet. We're talking about height and width of 7 feet. And there are a lot of problems that are presented, and the city's obviously received complaints related to the problems that are presented by the parking of these vehicles on public streets. Right now, we're not addressing the parking of these vehicles on private property. As the council is aware, we do have some regulations already in place with respect to the parking of recreational vehicles on private property. So right now, we're trying to address the issues that are presented with them being parked on public streets. What types of problems do we end up with? I mean, these are problems that end up impacting health, safety, and welfare of our community. They include the oversized vehicles that end up blocking line of sight and visibility. And you can see in the picture that's presented, there's a picture of an RV that's parked very close to a driveway. What ends up happening is the vehicles that want to pull out of that driveway cannot see oncoming traffic. And vice versa, people who might be trying to pull into the driveway that's in front of that RV won't be able to see people that are walking down the sidewalk there. So that presents, obviously, a safety hazard. These sort of things also block, at times, street signs, traffic signs, things of that nature that would have an impact. What you also see is, obviously, a reduction in on-street parking. Oversized vehicles, again, we're talking about vehicles that might exceed 22 feet in length, do oftentimes take up and will take up more than one typical passenger vehicle parking space. And so as we have these sort of recreational vehicles and other sorts of oversized vehicles parking on streets, we end up with less space for regular passenger vehicles to park. This is especially burdensome in residential areas. As you've heard tonight, obviously over in the Tacos Don Goyo area, there is a concern related to on-street parking in general. And so when we have oversized vehicles that park there, it impacts it just as much. Other issues are the vehicles that are parked, and because of the width and typically the width of it, it actually expands further into what would be the drivable area of roadways, especially again in our residential areas, which have typically narrower roadways than obviously our main thoroughfares. So these are all the sort of problems that our city here in Downey, as well as other jurisdictions, face when we're dealing with the oversized vehicles. And again, this is not limited just to recreational vehicles. This would be all oversized vehicles. And the standards that I provide you are not the sole standards that the city would have to look at. Like they could change the length, change the width, change the height. But these are the typical width, length, and height that most jurisdictions focus on. So what type of options does the city actually have? Well, there's a couple of things. So the California Vehicle Code actually authorizes the city to be able to regulate the parking of vehicles. We do this on an everyday basis with normal passenger vehicles. But this would allow us to actually focus on those that are oversized based on the sort of problems that we just discussed. One option would be a complete ban. The city could actually enact a complete ban for the parking of oversized vehicles within our city. At least in the public property areas that we're dealing with. Again, these are just options that the city would have, options for the city to consider, and ultimately what we'd be asking for would be direction from the city council if the city wants us to actually propose any type of ordinance for the city. But one, like I say, would be a complete ban of the parking of these oversized vehicles on public property. Another would be just restricting the hours that these sort of vehicles could park on public property. One benefit of doing that is you'd be able to prohibit parking during nighttime hours. So for example, you could prohibit the parking of the oversized vehicles between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. or between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m., which would prohibit them from being able to be parked there during those hours. A third option would be actually restricting the areas of the city in which they could park. So, for example, the city could say, okay, we're going to allow oversized vehicles to only be parked in commercial or industrial areas of the city, but not residential areas. Okay. And by the way, the city would have the ability to mix and match some of these things. But one of the additional things that the city would have the ability to do, because, it's always, as you're well aware, city council is always balancing, right? We're always balancing the harms and dangers and hazards that come with certain things along with the rights of our citizens. And so in order to still allow them to benefit from having recreational vehicles and the like, the city could actually implement a parking permit program that would be specific to oversized vehicles and or recreational vehicles. Now, typically when cities enact regulations relating to parking permits, and this would be different than our district parking programs that we have already in the city under the code. This would be something that would be very specific to recreational vehicles or oversized vehicles. And what the city would do is typically enact the ability for people to come in and get permits, and we would set a process for how to get those permits. We would set a limitation on the number of permits that would be able to be issued to any residents or property within the city. We would limit the duration of that permit. And so I'll go through with you just a quick chart, as you can see up here, the chart that actually provides what some of the other local jurisdictions are doing. And as you can see, I've put in the chart the cities of Anaheim, Bell Gardens, Long Beach, Los Angeles, Pomona, San Diego, Santa Monica, Santa Barbara, and Southgate. Some are larger cities, some are smaller cities, some are, again, neighboring cities. But as you can see, there are some cities like the city of Anaheim, which has actually prohibited the parking of these oversized vehicles everywhere within the city. Whether or not that ultimately fits the goals and designs of what the city of Downey would like to do is a separate question. Again, we're just going through options. You'll see in the city of Bell Gardens, they took the path of restricting the hours in which oversized vehicles are parked. And there they prohibited them from being parked between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. But what they did do is they also enacted a permit program. And their limitations are that you can get actually 12 permits per year. And those 12 permits are divided by 6 3-day permits and 6 7-day permits. The 7-day permits obviously would allow for longer-term parking of recreational vehicles if they're potentially somebody who wants to do it during the summer who might be going out one weekend and then utilizing the next weekend but doesn't want to have to go store the vehicle somewhere else for that 1 week period of time. We also have up there the City of Long Beach. City of Long Beach also prohibits them during certain hours and in certain areas. Additionally, they also provide for parking permits, again, for these recreational vehicles. There, the permits are limited to 72 hours and not more than 20 per year. I don't want to go through every single one of them, but you can look at them. The City of Santa Monica has prohibited the parking of the oversized vehicles between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. They've also limited the availability of the parking permits to one for every 30-day period. Okay, and so there's a lot of different things. You can look at Santa Barbara. They allow for a permit program where they're allowing permits to be valid for 5 consecutive days, but no more than 10 consecutive days in a 90-day calendar period, so in case they get 2 in a row. And then they have different permit program if they're dealing with contractor oversized vehicles. So there's a lot of different options that the city has, and ultimately it's about kind of evaluating what's going to be best for the city in that balancing act of trying to address the health and safety concerns that we put up. There are other concerns that have been raised with respect to the parking of recreational vehicles, and that's vehicles that are being used by people to live in, and then parking them on the streets. And in conjunction with that, there are obviously the ancillary impacts of people living in a vehicle. And that would include how they're disposing of the waste that comes out of that and the like. I will tell you that this sort of a program obviously would naturally address that because it's going to address all oversized and recreational vehicles. But we do already have on the books laws that actually prohibit people from sleeping in vehicles while it's parked on a public street. And obviously we have illegal dumping laws that would already apply if they improperly dispose of the waste. So some of those things we do already have laws on the books and we can already address, assuming that we can, actually observe the violation. But this is really designed more to address the other health and safety concerns that are that were set forth kind of at the beginning of this and set forth in the staff report. And obviously, I'm available for any types of questions that you may have regarding any of these processes, options, or anything else.
Are there any questions, comments?
I have some questions and comments. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jim, thank you for this presentation, for this report.
Of course.
Appreciate the thoroughness of it. I believe it is important to look at, as you stated, there are already laws in place and city codes that we have. I think the ask of this, again, is really to address many concerns that residents have brought forth in regards to increase in overnight parking of these vehicles in residential areas. And as I see the list of cities that you've provided, I'm leaning more towards a prohibiting the overnight parking altogether and prohibiting in residential areas with limited exceptions, as some other cities have, and no more than 72 hours and that 12 to 15 permits per year. I think that, again, for those individuals that have recreational vehicles in our city that do take their families out, that allows them those permits. I think what we really want to avoid is to become a city where we have people living in their vehicles and the excess of trash and potential criminal activity that can result from. I know that in several of our neighborhoods that has been the case, and many of the residents have complained about that to our police, and that is really a great concern. Thank you.
And if I can just add, I failed to mention this, but within all of these programs, whatever we're setting up, there are going to be certain types of vehicles that are going to be exempt, and we would include it within any type of code, but they're required for us to exempt, such as delivery vehicles. We can't prohibit delivery vehicles from coming in and dropping off, whatever merchandise or goods that someone may have ordered. However, we can impose certain limitations on them. So we can say, if you're going to park in this area, you have to park within a certain distance of the location where you're going to be delivering the stuff. There's going to be certain types of, obviously, contractor vehicles that are going to have to be exempt because those are the types of vehicles that are used for the construction work that's done, disability placards, things like that. So there are some vehicles that I didn't reference up here, but obviously there would be some that we would still be exempting irrespective of the type of code that we do.
And if we can go back, please, and put up that slide that lists the cities that have certain restrictions. I believe I saw Long Beach and Santa Monica.
That's correct.
I know Southgate prohibits them altogether.
Correct.
But again, we want to make sure that our residents here on council chambers, but as well those watching via YouTube, can see what other cities have done to address this particular issue. I think prohibiting the overnight parking is something that I would feel very strongly for.
Any other comments?
I agree that we should probably look into prohibiting some level of overnight. I think the cities that have done things like 1 to 5 a.m., that addresses the real issue of them being there overnight. But I think it's very important that we have some kind of permit process for people who will be taking it out and needing to park it for a day or two out of, where they take it out of the yard where they store it, or whether they've rented it in advance, so they have a day or two there. And, there's going to be people who come into our city visiting and want to stay over, for a week, and get a permit to visit their aunt, uncle, brother, sister.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are the kind of things I think would be most reasonable to have. I can see why Southgate, in a lot of ways, certainly because of how their residential areas are, having been built up pre-World War II, with very narrow streets where you park on two cars there, and there's room for one car down the middle. You put a recreational vehicle, there's no room.
Right.
So I can see why Southgate, in a number of their areas, would need to have that kind of restriction. But Downey, that was built up after the war, when cars were
a little bit wider. Yeah,
a little bit wider, and you were planning more for cars as opposed to people who walk to work at the Firestone plant.
Right.
I think we can have a reasonable accommodation without having to worry about prohibiting everything, but right now everything's allowed. And I think that's probably a little too generous to provide some of our community with eyesores. I'm sorry, Ms. Fermetta, there are people living in those already. I don't want to, I know you know that, but we shouldn't pretend that there aren't people already sleeping in those RVs and.
That makes them residents.
Sir, first warning.
Thank you.
I would actually like to see it, and I don't know if this was said, in the residential and commercial areas, because even in the commercial, like off of Woodruff Avenue, you see a lot of recreational vehicles. I know there are eyesores, and we constantly get complaints of recreational vehicles being parked off of Woodruff. I get complaints off of Gardendale. So I'd like to see it residential and also in commercial areas. But I agree with my council colleagues about allowing a permit program, so that way for out-of-town visitors, if it's temporary, and of course if people want to have their recreational vehicle for like an extended camping trip or something for a weekend trip.
But you're looking at potentially having a permit program only for the residential area for purpose of the RVs, not in the commercial, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I think so. I think we can, if you don't mind, Madam Mayor, and Council colleague LaPlante agrees, I would like to propose a motion to prohibit overnight parking in all residential and commercial areas with limited exceptions to no more than 72 hours and allow up to 15 permits per year. And again, this is citywide.
So it would be citywide, and how many permits per year?
15.
15?
Is it possible to simply ask that we have staff come back with a proposal that has blanks in it?
Yes.
That seems to be an easier solution than try to figure it out right now. Is, the time is blank to blank, the number of permits is blank, number of days is blank.
Yeah, let us bring back a couple examples.
I was going to say, I would recommend that we come back with a proposed ordinance fitting within the parameters of what you're talking about. We can provide you with some more guidelines with respect to the number of permits to be issued and the duration of them. But rather than coming back with something blank, I think we'd be better off actually putting in something, because again, we have to publish it. We have to make sure that it's not modified too much at the city council meeting.
I don't want it to be a blank. I do want us, as it was shown on the slide, Jim, there are cities that have a certain number. And I think that, I don't want it to have, carte blanche. It's got to be a little more specific. But thank you. I think a proposed ordinance based on these parameters will be good. Thank you.
And for purposes of, so we're talking about coming back with an ordinance that would provide for a permitting program within the residential zone for recreational vehicles, that at least for the moment, we're talking about a 72-hour permit and no more than 15 per year. But with respect to the prohibition, are we looking at an ordinance that would prohibit them 24 hours a day without that permit in the residential and commercial areas of the city, or are we talking about just the overnight hours during those times?
I'd be comfortable with a complete ban, but I'll also listen to my council
I agree,
colleagues.
Madam Mayor.
I'm uncomfortable banning them totally. So that's why I'm saying bring back something and we can massage it. And
Where's your RV?
Second warning.
At the rental yard. But I would think, that's why I was saying blanks, but you can obviously have something that we could simply amend. If there's 3 members of the council who want to say 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., or whether it's 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., that solves the overnight issue, because you're not going to go running out and move it all around all night. So, but I think, personally, my view is people should be able to at least park them during the day. You pick it up at noon to leave at 5, what are you going to do with it? That's my concern at that point, that we don't put people in a position of having to park illegally just because they don't have any,
But Councilmember LaPlante, I think that is already being addressed when we talk about the residential area, in the permit on the residential areas specifically. I think we're talking about, the rest of the city in the commercial areas.
I don't have a problem with the commercial areas, but my concern is the residential areas. I decide I want to, for some crazy reason, rent an RV, and I pick it up at noon, but the family doesn't come home until 6 o'clock. I don't want to be having get a parking ticket for parking illegally for 6 hours by banning it 24 hours a day in a residential area. That's my concern.
Yeah, I understand. I mean,
Sir,
I believe that's the idea behind the
just a
permit
second, sir.
program.
That's next time there's an outburst like that, you will be removed in the orange shirt.
My concern is that I shouldn't need to go get a permit if I'm just going to have it parked
For
there
a couple of hours during the day.
For 4 hours during the day. You mean I got to go get a permit and stand in line and pay $10 and blah blah blah? That's my concern. I don't have a problem with a thing that says you can't park it more than 24 hours or 12 hours or ban it at night or whatever. But I don't want to make our citizens getting $50, $100, whatever it is, parking tickets because they picked up an RV at noon and aren't leaving until 6 o'clock at night. That I don't want to have happen to our residents.
City manager.
Constant disruption. Yeah, I want to assure you, I've administered these ordinances in other cities, several other cities. I've administered the permit programs, and we can write something up to bring back to the council along with a description of how the permit program would work. And then you can modify it if it doesn't meet your needs. But I understand, Tyler, what you're saying. Not every oversized vehicle is an RV.
Correct.
And so there's other reasons why people may have other kinds of vehicles on the street. So we're not going to make it so completely prohibitive that you can't ever park anything oversized on a street. But we're going to try to get to the root of the real problem that you've identified. I think we understand what you're asking for.
Yes. So I move to, do we need to make a vote? Just to have you come back?
Okay,
No,
so.
I think we've already just given them direction with two of us saying we want some direct. We've given them direction under the policy we passed 20 minutes ago.
Do you have enough direction?
I do.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
I move to approve or give direction.
So
based on what we've
approve to
discussed.
give direction to bring back an ordinance as to prohibiting recreational vehicles
Oversized.
or oversized vehicles
Overnight parking.
for overnight and to set certain parameters.
And with,
I don't know if that
and with
helps.
the permit program. It does.
Okay.
It does. I understand where we're going.
Okay, and there's a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
All right, please vote.
Oh, Madam Mayor.
Mayor,
You didn't vote.
The motion is
Yay.
approved unanimously with Councilmember Trujillo and Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, Interim City Manager Scott, do you have any additional comments?
The only thing I wanted to bring up at the end of the meeting was you will recall that we had several items that had been brought up at the last meeting about future agenda items council members had brought up. We didn't have a policy in place, and so now that the city council has adopted the policy, it would be appropriate for me to get that direction from the council on each of these items, and I can read through them. We don't need a motion on each, but the policy would suggest that there's at least two people in favor of going forward, and we can adopt that by minute action. And if you're not ready on any of these this week, we can carry it over or whatever you want. But, the first item was a request for a memo from staff discussing the history of support from the city for the YMCA. I think to inform future actions, but I think the request was for a historic research historically. Is that correct?
Actually, I think what Mr. Trujillo was talking more about was assisting in the new project.
Well, I didn't hear that.
That's what I understood.
Yeah, well,
I think we just defer that until
we'll
Mr.
have to wait for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. The second one was from Mr. Trujillo, was about maintenance and the road upgrade for the city gateways at the 710. He asked about including discussion or with Caltrans and City of Southgate for a possible joint project. That's obviously a budget review item. That's a capital project. But it would take some preliminary work by staff to be able to present the item at the budget. So the request I would have is the council interested in staff doing that legwork to be prepared to discuss that during the budget process?
What Mr. Trujillo, I know exactly what he was complaining about. It was the potholes on the entrance to the northbound 710 from Firestone is what he was referencing. I actually was on that on Sunday morning. They have filled in the potholes.
Well, I know what he's talking about too, because he took me out to show me, and it was that and some other things as well.
Yeah.
But maybe we need to wait for him to
Yeah, I
explain.
think we should wait, because the only thing he brought up in public was that. And I wouldn't want to spend any money fixing something that's Caltrans' responsibility, to be very honest. That's
all right. Let's wait. Let's wait. That's fine. The next one, the memo from staff describing the funding support for the Downey Link transit system including discussion of flexibility that may exist for alternate uses of the funding.
I believe we were all wanting to
there
get
was-
that report.
I'm asking for concurrence, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we got it.
You finally got some concurrence.
I did.
Yes.
I'm feeling very accomplished. Discussion of possible senior program enhancements at Barbara J. Riley.
Sorry, I got distracted by the
I know.
interruptions.
So the next one was discussion of possible senior program enhancement at Barbara J. Riley. That would just be a report from the staff on thoughts and suggestions.
A simple staff report?
Yes.
I'm fine with a simple staff report.
Great. The next one is consideration of discounts. I'm not sure we got this right, but so you can correct me if it's wrong. Consideration of discounts for recreational classes for families with multiple enrolled children.
Multiple.
It's a simple staff
More
report.
than one child enrolled in the program.
That's again a simple staff report.
Simple staff report.
Okay.
And then the third one, which you may want to wait, I don't know, the discussion of the City of Bell Gardens' new rent stabilization ordinance.
I'd wait until Ms. Alvarez is here. That was her item. We held Mr. Trujillo's items.
Okay, that's all I've got.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The city council meeting, it will now be adjourned at 8:32 p.m. in memory of Shirley Gerardin, longtime Downey resident, and the lives lost due to COVID-19. A moment of silence. Meeting adjourned.